Today, Crypto World heads to the Bitcoin 2022 conference in Miami, and the Stacks Foundation's executive director explains the next evolution of Bitcoin. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World, here in Miami Beach, Florida, for the 2022 North American Bitcoin Conference. I'm MacKenzie Sigalos. Let's start with the price moves. Digital currency saw a sharp sell-off this morning. Prices fell an average of 4.4% by noon Eastern. Bitcoin dropped about 3.8%. Ether fell by 6%, and Ripple's XRP fell by 5.6%. Okay, we're here at the largest Bitcoin conference in North America. There are thousands of people here and hundreds of companies, from exchanges to NFT artists to game developers. The conference has been steadily growing since it started in 2014 and even has approval from the city of Miami itself.
It's evolved. The venue has been upgraded. Things are a lot more orderly right now. The smiles are still there. The line was wrapped around the block, a lot of newbies coming in. And the city of Miami is truly with us this time. We give away 500 tickets to people in the city, students, young people, women, everyone that normally wouldn't be here, and they're here.
Of course, Bitcoin Miami allows its biggest fans to come out in full force and support the OG cryptocurrency. Now, some say that over the years, the conference has become more protective of Bitcoin's status quo.
2017 was the turning point where, for some reason, the broader Bitcoin community became very protective of the Bitcoin core, right? And they started pushing away the rest of the industry. And in some ways, I feel like you don't need to protect Bitcoin. Bitcoin is fine.
Now, Crypto World will be here through the entire conference to bring you all the latest news and biggest names, so be sure to stay tuned. For our main story, Crypto World host Tanaya and Macheel spoke to Brittany Laughlin of the Stacks Foundation to find out how Stacks can be used to bring Bitcoin into the world of NFTs, smart contracts, and more.
To start, what exactly is Stacks? What is the Stacks network, and what do investors need to know about it?
So Stacks makes it easy for Bitcoin to be programmable. So that means that things like DeFi or NFTs are now on Bitcoin using the Stacks network. So it has its own token called Stacks or STX that you can use as fuel in the network to fund the smart contracts.
Since we last spoke, there's been this explosion in popularity of these Ethereum alternatives. It's like the institutional investors decided they love Bitcoin and Ether. They know all about Ethereum now, and we've heard all about Solana and Cardano and Algorand over the past year. Stacks' mission is also to kind of be a smart contracts platform built on top of Bitcoin, if I'm not mistaken. So what are the major differences there that investors need to know about?
Yeah, so Bitcoin is the largest, most secure network, and it has the highest market cap. So there's a lot of Bitcoin value, but not a lot that you can do with it. So Ethereum has a lot of utility, and we've seen all these chains built on top of Ethereum, but right now that doesn't exist for Bitcoin. So if you believe in the potential of Bitcoin, one of the largest held assets, the most global, the most secure, then you can think of Stacks as a way to really unlock some of that value and make sure that more interesting things can be built on top.
How does one become a Stacks holder?
So Stacks are available to US persons as well as people abroad through networks like Coinbase, OKCoin, and Binance, in addition to, some 30-odd other exchanges. So you can purchase Stacks that way, or you can work in the network and find ways to earn them or use them in various ways.
So I first heard about Stacks because I was talking to a couple of institutional investors who were starting to tell me about this idea of stacking Stacks and earning yield, which sounded like it was a lot. I think what I heard was some kind of 25% return, which I don't know about today, but I know at the time you couldn't have done that unless you were mining Bitcoin, which isn't really feasible for institutional types. So what is the latest there? Are you still seeing a lot of interest in stacking Stacks, and who is this interest coming from?
Yeah, so in the Stacks network, stacking, which is similar to staking, but instead of earning more Stacks, you actually earn Bitcoin. And I think that yield right now is anywhere from 7 to 10%. So lock up your Stacks for 2 weeks, up to 6 months, and you earn that yield over that time in Bitcoin. And so that is accessible to retail investors. They can pool together with many people to have enough to stack, or institutions could do it as well. So if you're thinking about a way that you can get into Bitcoin over time, you're not trying to price the market, but you do want to own the principal in stacks and then earn Bitcoin over time, this is a great way to do that. And we've seen a huge rise in the number of people who are stacking. I think we have close to $470 million worth of stacks that are currently locked in this cycle. People have earned hundreds of Bitcoin over the past year since this came online, and we're just seeing growing interest in how this can be used. For example, things like City coins are made possible because of this stacking functionality that is unique to stacks.
Can you tell me more about the pooling of the money together? How does that work?
Yeah, so in order to stack independently, you need to have at least about 110,000 stacks in your wallet. If you don't have that, you would need to pool together with other wallets to meet that threshold. So you can do that through things like OKCoin or Binance. You can be part of stacking pools. Or there's some independent companies that also offer stacking pools that you can join.
Okay. What do you see as sort of the state of yield farming today? I remember about this time last year, that was all the rage. Everyone was just trying to find the biggest amount of returns they possibly could. They were swapping assets 100 different ways and getting really savvy with it. Is that still something that's going on? I know, DeFi was really up and coming, and I don't think, as I said when we spoke earlier, that people have lost interest in that, but we've had some distractions in 2022 alone, so I'm just not hearing much about it. But is that still going the way it had been last year?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interest in yield in general. People, they're looking for appreciating assets. Maybe that's been harder to find as there's been volatility in the crypto markets. So people want more secure yields. I think, though, they're looking for yield in assets that they also believe in. And that's why stacking's been popular, because people understand Bitcoin. So earning Bitcoin is like a very easy win versus thinking about having to understand the mechanics of a new chain. And maybe you're earning a nice yield in that token, but you may not know what that token will be worth in the long term.
In the past year, we've seen this explosion in NFTs that we've seen it before. We saw it in 2017, something like that, but it's really come back in a more real way. How does that affect Bitcoin?
With stacks, it actually makes Bitcoin more of a network than an asset, because if you want to mint an NFT on Bitcoin, it's not possible without using a layer like stacks. And a lot of people don't want to see the Bitcoin chain clogged up with a bunch of NFTs. Anyway, that would be very expensive gas prices as well. So I think just in the past year, we've seen a growing interest in adding more utility on top of Bitcoin. So all of those Bitcoiners can get involved in things like NFTs, having their asset be on the most secure chain, the most widely accessible chain, as well as DeFi. If you have Bitcoin and you're not planning on selling it, why shouldn't you be able to take a loan against it without having to trust a third-party custodian to hold your Bitcoin on your behalf, but instead lock it on-chain? And Stacks, because it's tied to Bitcoin, actually allows you to do that without moving your Bitcoin. So I think there's a lot of interesting things in the Ethereum network that Bitcoin hasn't gotten to play with yet, and I think that narrative has changed, and we'll see a lot more of that in the next year.
Before we go, we want to let you know that we'll be bringing you loads of content from Bitcoin 2022 over at cnbc.com/Crypto World. Check there for full interviews and more. That's all for today's show. We'll be back here tomorrow, and we will see you then.